Welcome to the details. Now, this afternoon, there's another period of wait for MPs and Ghanaians. The Speaker, Professor Michael Quay, is expected to deliver his final ruling on the vetting bribery scandal. The Joe Garte Committee found the accuser, Mahama Ayariga, guilty of contempt of Parliament. He had alleged the chairman of the Appointments Committee, Joe Osei-Wusu, and the Minority Chief Whip, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, had facilitated the payment of bribe to the minority members on the committee to approve the nomination of then Energy Minister-designate Boakye Ejako. Well, since then, some ugly scenes have been witnessed in the House. Mahama Ayariga's apology, we understand, has been rejected, and a new one is expected to be presented to the House, after which the Speaker will deliver his final word on the matter. We can go live to Parliament, where Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is standing by for more details for us. Well, it appears we don't have Opoku-Gakpo at the moment. We'll be touching base with him in Parliament House. But let me introduce you to a rather interesting story. Former Vice President Amissah Arthur has served notice of keeping government on its toes once the President has all his appointees in place. The former second gentleman has been speaking exclusively to JoyNews on the sidelines of the launch of the first African Study Bible here in the capital. Asked on whether he plans to contest the NDC primaries as flag bearer, the former vice president revealed that he has no plans of staying away from national affairs, as he will be commenting on national issues as and when necessary.
God's word is universal, but understanding of it based on cultures. And African culture is unique. And so what they have done is to present the Bible, to interpret the Bible in the stories, the relevance of those stories in Africa, in an African context, so that we Africans can also live with this universal message.
As a former vice president, you obviously may have the conduct of people in the past. We've talked lots about how the church could be key in changing attitudes of young people. Lots of wrong things across the youth.
The call to the youth is for us to study the Bible. It's a living document, and therefore we all live by it. It has many lessons in leadership, many lessons in how we conduct ourselves, both in private and in public, and I think those are the relevant messages for youth in Africa.
So in your very introduction, you cracked the joke about remaining active. Where should we expect you next apart from such events?
I'm going to be active. I will comment on national affairs as I see fit. I have a lot of experience in many things, and I'm not going to be sitting in a corner when things are going wrong. If things are going wrong, I'll speak about them. If things are going right, I'll comment whoever is doing the right thing, but I'll comment on national affairs.
How about the arena of politics? We are supposed to see you on the ticket of the NDC.
Whatever the calling is. No, sorry, what was your question?
In terms of the arena of politics, are we expecting to see you on the ticket of a party?
I'll be active in national life, in all aspects of national life, and so that's my.
Just to be clear, whether this is you are done with active politics or you still stay in it.
Can one be ever in this, after having occupied this position, ignore things that happen? I'm saying that you cannot ignore things that happen in our country, and we, the people who have been privileged to serve, should be able to draw many lessons from what goes on, so that we can help to improve conditions of life for the people.
So you continue to be available and put yourself up?
To be active. I'll continue to comment. We have given, the government has just come into office. I think we must allow the president time to settle in office, to appoint the people to help himself. But as soon as that is done and they start administering our country, we will be able to then take them to task for things that are not going right, and commend them also for things that they do right.
But so far, have you been impressed?
I reserve my comments. They're not 100 days yet.
It's been about 4 months. They have some few days, less than 20 days.
They haven't done 100 days yet. I reserve all comment until they have passed through their standard 100 days, and then we shall start commenting.
The last issue, you've been a governor of the Bank of Ghana before. The governor recently resigned. Did that come as a surprise to you?
Yes, it was a surprise to me. I don't think that anybody takes the position of governor lightly. It's a very important position, and it moves markets, and people who are interested in Ghana's development, the economic development of Ghana, are interested in who stays as who occupies the seat as governor. And I think after 1 year, he had grown into the job, and I was expecting much more from him. But he says that it's personal, and he's decided to call it quits. I also know his successor quite well. Dr. Addison was Director of Research when I was governor. He has a fantastic mind, and I hope that the staff will support him in doing the things that are necessary to be done to stabilize the economy and for the economy to grow.
When you hear comments like was forced out, does it come as a surprise to you?
It comes as a surprise to me because the governor cannot be forced out. According to the rules, the Constitution protects the position of governor once he's appointed, unless he's done something that he can be impeached for as an appeal court judge. You cannot remove the governor just because you don't like him, because that is the stability of the central bank, is the stability of monetary policy that we're interested in, not the individual who is there. The individual is protected from being removed at the whims of a president. So I know that if they had tried, he could have stayed in his position if he personally wanted to. He didn't, so he must have some personal reasons. Maybe he has some new challenges that he wants to tackle.
All right, so that is former Vice President Amissah Arthur with Joseph Akable. They were actually at a program where the Bible Society of Ghana has translated the Bible into several other local languages, and that was the occasion upon which he was met. Well, let's go over to Parliament, where Joseph Gakpo is ready at this point to give us an update on what's happening in Parliament. Gakpo, tell us what's happening with the not generally, but what's specifically happening with the Speaker's statement that is expected on the bribery scandal. Has he said anything so far?
We are waiting for that. In fact, the House began sitting sometime earlier this morning after 10 o'clock. The session lasted for a few minutes, less than 30 minutes, and then sitting was adjourned. You would recall that on Thursday night, when the Speaker, oversaw the delivery of the report of the Jogate Committee on the issue, he indicated that the following day, which was on Friday, he was going to give the directive and the ruling in question. That didn't happen on Friday. Yeah. Late on Friday night, sometime around 10:40 p.m., when the House was adjourning sitting, Second Deputy Speaker Alban Bagwin, who was in the seat presiding over the sitting, indicated that it's an issue that the Speaker would deal with today. Okay. Well, as at now, it's not come up following the deliberations that gone on all morning. Earlier today, as I indicated, the House started for well about 30 minutes. There were discussions about inviting the Minister for National Security to answer questions about the ongoing efforts to disband various vigilante groups, and then a few other items, including a motion to amend the energy sector levy in order to reduce prices of petroleum products. But the interesting bit is that the Speaker, Professor Michael Quay, did not mention the issue having to do with this particular ruling at all in the course of the conversations. And so we are waiting now that the House actually went on suspension. That was sometime after 11 o'clock. They were supposed to be back by 1 o'clock. But as the time reads, it's past 3 p.m. We've still not resumed sitting here in Parliament yet. And so we are waiting. We may or may not hear the Speaker give the ruling. Okay. But fingers are crossed that waiting that.
Since we're crossing our fingers, we know that the minority members are not so much of a crossing finger group of people. They are actually bringing up a very strong resistance to government's quest to review the Ameri deal. Bring us up to speed on what's that press conference actually has, the kind of conversation that this press conference they did earlier this morning has elicited in Parliament.
So, led by Dr. Kwabena Donkor, the former Minister for Energy, and a number of other MPs who are on the Mines and Energy Committee, they've been addressing a press conference relating to the contents having to do with the Ameri deal. What I have in my hand is the statement that they issued. I'll get into the details of it in a while, but just something briefly on the expectations with the Jogate Committee's report. Right. One of the minority MPs, lawyer Roxinda Fimakbo, is joining us here. And so, lawyer, when the House eventually begins sitting any moment from now, expectation in that regard as far as the ruling from the Speaker is concerned concerning the Jogate Committee's report?
Yes, let me use the opportunity to say good afternoon to your viewers. I would expect that the Speaker will deliver his ruling, which will bring finality to this matter. That will be my expectation.
Where for you, what for that finality take? Because initially the thinking was that some form of apology had been issued, and so just maybe the issue have been laid to rest then, back on Thursday night.
Yeah, but I don't know whether you were here. You saw particularly the reaction from the majority side when the Honorable Mahama Yariga delivered his apology. They were of the view that it was no apology at all. And so if you read the report also only said apology. It didn't qualify the manner of the apology, whether it should be a written apology or it should be apology delivered viva voce in an unqualified manner. And so I believe the Speaker's ruling will make directions in respect of that. And when that is done, then we'll bring closure to the matter.
Hasn't this ruling delayed for too long? We are expecting it back on Friday. Following that, it's raised a number of speculations about what could happen, including rumors that the Honorable Ayariga could be suspended for a week.
No, I don't believe so. If you were here from about mid-March, we've always been going through this way of sitting, particularly when the issues before the House are intractable, when some bills will have to be passed, laid, and the motions and all that. So this process is not new. What I can say is, Friday we're supposed to have arisen for the session, 31st March, and then we were supposed to have gone on recess for about 6 weeks. But we have brought back here for extended sitting for 1 week. And so there are other pressing matters before the House. This is not one of the pressing issues. There are other more pressing matters.
My final question would be, would you expect something more severe in terms of punishment for Honorable Ayariga, or something less severe? The point being, what's your general expectation?
I will expect a reprimand.
Which will take what form?
A reprimand. A reprimand is a caution that maybe to Honorable Ayariga and to all other members, and also persons who, by the nature of their work, they relate with the office of this House, so that going forward, we all will be cautious what we say, what we write in respect of the work of Parliament.
Very well then. We'll move on in a bit to the press conference that you on the minority side addressed earlier today. And so, Gifty, fundamentally, the point that the minority has been raising at today's press conference is that they are essentially daring government, that if they think that when it comes to the Ameri deal that was signed with the Ameri team under the NDC regime, that was sometime last 2 years, is anything that is fraudulent, as has been claimed in the document which is circulating on social media as the report of a review committee chaired by Philip Addison, then government should go ahead and go to court and seek to get that contract abrogated. Essentially, they've been insisting that this particular document, this particular deal with Ameri gave government a lot of value for money, as they call it. They think that it's one of the cheapest deals that government got when it comes to thermal energy supply. And so no one was shortchanged, and that was actually the best of the deal. They've also been raising concerns even about the review that was done, and the committee that undertook the review. They first of all claim that the members of the committee traveled to Dubai to go meet the Ameri team, and they are asking questions that, as far as they have gathered, this trip was financed by the Ameri team, paying for their hotels, paying for their air tickets. So they're asking, how come can a team which is investigating Ameri go ahead and travel to the area on their own budget? And the final bit, they think that one of the members of the committee, one Everett Hughes, is someone who is in court over this Ameri issue. He allegedly published some comments on social media, virtually, claiming that the deal was fraudulent, and former Deputy Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine has sued him in court in connection with that. That case is still pending, so they don't understand how come he's one of those who sat on the Philip Addison committee to actually investigate this particular issue. But lawyer Roxanne Fiamepo, you are part of the team. In fact, you spoke at the press conference and claimed that you think the whole review by the Ameri team is something which is motivated more by politics than trying to get to the bottom of what exactly happened. What's the point you sought to make at the press conference?
Yes, I made a point that if you watch carefully what's happening in terms of the review, the supposed review, vis-a-vis the earlier position stated by the president himself in his inaugural address, and also in his Stona when he appeared before us here, and subsequent statements. Indeed, just last week, the information was put out that a team of lawyers and other analysts, policy analysts, headed by the Attorney General, are presently reviewing over 42 power sector agreements signed by the previous government within the last 8 years.
Isn't that a good thing? They're trying to, in their words, get value for money and ensure that those deals benefit Ghanaians a bit more.
Why would a review be a good thing? Are they suggesting that all the agreements that were duly signed and sought the pre-approval of Parliament, we are not receiving value for money? Are they saying that, for instance, the Ameri deal in its present form, we are not receiving value for money? We have quoted the figures copiously, the rates that are being applied and all. They have not been able to say that the rates that PURC advised for purposes of executing the agreement was on the higher side. If they were making the argument that the BOT agreement, the build, operate, and transfer agreement, that was executed in spite of the Ameri, could have a 3-year tenure. That is, the operators could have recouped their investment within 3 years instead of 5 years. Then I'll be in alignment with their thinking and maybe call for review that indeed by the rate we are applying from that project, they could indeed recoup the investment within 3 years and not 5 years. They are not making any such argument. Now, if you look at this BOT agreement, we have not invested any money. What we have done is that this is the nature of the deal. So if you are capable of investing and operating it and recouping your money within a certain period, please come and do it.
They mentioned a figure, $150 million, which they say yes, just maybe it could have been less of the amount.
No, they are saying that the project of about $550 million was inflated by about $150 million.
Was it inflated?
Hold on. They are saying it. We are not saying. They are making the allegation.
How do you respond to that? That's
yes,
what I'm saying.
And I'm saying $150 million is not money that you put in your back pocket. This is huge money. It translates to 650 million Ghana cedis. You understand? This is over $500 million Ghana cedis.
Which makes it then a very serious allegation if they claim that it was inflated by this amount.
There's no basis for such an allegation. There were about 5 stakeholders in this negotiation. There was Pricewaterhouse did the valuation. JP Morgan, the financiers did valuation. Now, PURC was part of the negotiation because they advised the rates. Now, the Attorney General and her team were ably represented at all times during the negotiations. Then the team of Ameri itself, before government and other state institutions. So this was not two people sitting across the table deciding.
One bit of it, I've also read that particular document myself. The document claims that in reference to the PricewaterhouseCoopers value for money audit that you make reference to, the deal was signed even before the outcome of that audit became available. Doesn't that raise questions about whether governments then relied on that before coming to a conclusion on this?
Making an allegation. The availability of the report is different from the authorship of the report. If the report has been done and it's not available to you, it is different. They are not saying that the report was commissioned after the deal had been signed. So listen to the English carefully. They say it was, maybe they looked for it, they couldn't access it, and that it was available to them after. They have been monitoring. At the time the deal was going through negotiations, the then opposition members, they were monitoring, and they were actually looking to lay hands on the PricewaterhouseCoopers valuation, but it may not have been available to them. And so it has no basis in this report.
Let's run up on the conversation now. So the government committee's report is making the point that Ameri should be brought back to the table to renegotiate the deal. If they don't, then the contract should be cancelled on the basis of fraud.
Is that what we do in law? Is that what we do in law? In law, when you establish fraud, you abrogate the contract. You don't ask somebody who has dealt with you fraudulently to come back for renegotiation. That will be mala fide. That you'll be acting. You are saying the person acted he acted with you in mala fide, and you are saying the same person should come back to the table to renegotiate. Who does that? So it is nothing but a vainglorious attempt to seek or to pursue a political agenda, and that is why all the other agreements they are reviewing, it's for purposes of seeking political agenda. Because you see, when you establish fraud, you go to court. You say, because you see, when you unilaterally abrogate the contract, because it will lead to in the situations, you invite the court to determine, to confirm the fraud for you. Then you abrogate. Then you are sound. You are home and dry. But you don't do so. This report is not signed. They just dump the report in the social media and is engaging the minds of every reasonable person in this country. So our fear is that if we do not respond in the manner that we have done, the fears of people may crystallize and it will harm our heritage.
My final question would be, what's the big deal if Ameri paid for members of this 17 or so member committee headed by Philip Addison to travel all the way to Dubai to meet officials of Ameri and further understand issues? Yourself and Dr. Kamla Donko were raising issues about it at the press conference. What's the point?
Interest. If I am investigating you, if for any reason JFM is alleging that I should investigate you for something, and you are traveled outside of the country, and for purposes to engage with you, you have to pay for my lodgement, you have to pay for my transportation. You think if I come, I will be in a position, in an independently minded position to make an adverse finding against you?
You think it's a situation of conflict of interest?
Of course. If the purpose, the true purpose of the trip was to go and make findings, purposes of which is to establish adverse findings, then I should not be paying for your lodge. The state is capable of paying for the lodge of these people, their airfare, their lodging in Dubai, so that they can independently be set in their mind.
If we go by that logic, then the committee should have been a lot more lenient on Ameri, rather than being this hard on them, asking for a renegotiation of the contract.
That's why we are saying it is nothing but an attempt to twist the arm of Ameri to come back to the negotiating table for whatever purpose you and I cannot tell.
Many thanks.
These allegations are just based on suspicions and nothing really.
Many thanks for speaking to us. So that's
My pleasure,
lawyer Roxanne Dafiamakpo, the member of Parliament for South Dai. He's part of the minority team that addressed the press conference earlier today. Briefly.
If I may make a small point, I will urge this government to observe what we call pacta sans servanda, the sanctity of contracts, because where they are heading into a dangerous waters.
Where the dangerous waters mean what? Judgment that you suspect me.
Because if you are unilaterally reviewing, because even how to review a contract will be part of the contract executed. Just I'm reviewing, there ought to be a purpose for the review. If the conditions under which a contract will be reviewed is not brought into operation, you don't get up and say I am reviewing. This is the Republic of Ghana, not an individual.
Many thanks for speaking to us. And so we're waiting for the side to some raised indications are that sometimes we would hear from them, and so if to let you know as and when they respond.
Okay, thank you very much. Gakpo will be coming to you as and when necessary, so that we can hear from the Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, there with Member of Parliament for South Dai, who is Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakpo. They're very interesting discussion if you did follow. They believe, the minority of course believe, that this is an attempt to pursue a certain political agenda, or perhaps to bring Ameri back to the negotiating table for whatever reasons they say. They don't know. This is The Pulse with me, Gifty and Doppia. I'm going to take a very quick break. When I return, I'll tell you what's up with road safety. Please stay.